Time has come once again to speak as co-creators in Magic Do. I'm Daniel and
I'm Michaela Stone, and we are your guides in your journey into the heart of the primordial.
Welcome to Season 10, Episode 7. We're getting into the weeds.
Mm-hmm. I love the way you remember what episode we're on. I'm like, I
I
don't
checked.
even I don't even remember for my other podcast, and I don't have
Yeah,
that many episodes out. But
yeah. I check before most of the time,
well, there you go.
just to make sure, because there's a few times you can go back in the old ones and see where I messed up. But
Hmm.
yeah, so there is a time for shadow work coming for people, especially wielders of the divine feminine.
Mm. Yes, and I'd like to just point out, didn't know
Yes,
that until 2 seconds ago, but
right,
just want to point out too that not all emotional work is
right,
shadow work.
right.
Some of it's just emotional work. So the
Hmm.
shadow work is where you are hiding an aspect of yourself from yourself,
Right,
or you're hiding something to do with your journey here that you don't want to see. That's
right.
that's the shadow work stuff. So for anybody who thinks anything that's emotionally tough is shadow work, not necessarily so.
No,
It doesn't have to be.
no.
So.
This will be well. Basically the concept is this. This is what I got because I got it this afternoon. A little bit of it last night. Is that as the divine feminine ascends, you have to be prepared for the consequences, responsibilities. If you're a wielder of the divine feminine, that goes with that.
Anytime you're trying to
Right.
make a difference with something, you've got to accept the responsibility.
Right.
Yeah. So
And you
yeah,
have to
that
prepare
seems good.
yourself. Yes, and you have to prepare yourself to be ready for those responsibilities. And that's what's happening, or that's at least the vibe I'm getting.
Mm. Well, if the thing with responsibility is if you
Mm,
don't accept your responsibility, then your choice is taken from you.
right.
So, you know,
Well,
you don't
yes.
you don't get to do things that you don't take responsibility for and sustain it.
Right. So that I'm glad you said that because so that's the great thing coming up. If you don't take responsibility and you don't learn how to take responsibility, you're going to give that power back to the people you don't want to have that power.
Yep. Yep. And wow, we see that in the political arena right now, and I cannot not bring it up because
Mm,
it's so important. There are extremely right-leaning
mm,
women, they wear the red hats, etc. Um, very right-leaning women are prepared, they have stated that they are prepared to give up the right to vote if it means that women who are more liberal don't get to vote. Now, that is a staggering example
yes.
of abdication of responsibility in favor of just straight up spite.
Mm,
And it's unexamined spite. Like, if you look at that scenario I just gave, which is a legit thing, it's right out there now and you can find it, just look it up and it's there. Think about that for a second. What benefit is it to the person willing to make that sacrifice if somebody else suffers? What benefit is it to them to do that, really? And if the other person is suffering because that right got taken away from them, again, how does the initiate of that benefit. In no way, shape, or
Right.
form do they benefit. So what's missing in that scenario is A, critical thinking,
Hmm.
B, compassion, and C, responsibility. Because
Right.
if you want to change a path, you take responsibility for how you're going to do that. And an act of pure spite isn't that.
No. And that's kind of the thing, right? It's the if you just kind of react, all you get is the continual swinging of the pendulum.
Yeah.
You'll go from matriarchy or you go from patriarchy to matriarchy, back to patriarchy, back to matriarchy, depending on, I don't know, talking. But the idea is that instead of getting that balance, we're just going to keep sitting in a state of unbalance, or at least this very much disharmony. Instead of
Yeah.
going forward, we're just going to, I guess, step back's not the right way to say it, but you're going to stay out of this harmony. You're going to have the same problems over and over again. It's just going to be different faces doing it. And one of the things pretty much that's going to happen is that because you're doing things out of spite, you're not going to get the backing you want.
Right. But it's not going to end well.
Right.
That's kind of the key thing as well. Nobody does well out of that. At least, the people immediately involved, none of them are going to do well out of that. And the people wielding the real power, they're just laughing. Like to them, it's hysterically funny because their work is being done for them. So,
Right.
for the listener who's, maybe got some strong opinions about various groups or whatever, especially, in fact, if you have strong opinions about various groups, it would be a great time to consider what is the benefit to taking action on those opinions? And are those opinions really yours, or have you just taken them on because they are current and everybody else says it in your environment? Because you got to take responsibility for what comes of what you do. And whether you want it or not, you are responsible. So you really need to be
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're currently doing the thing you want to do. That would also go
Yeah.
for magic, right? If you're
Right.
currently getting interested in hexing people, for example, which is always a draw. I gotta say,
Mm.
there is always somebody that you could hex the life out of.
Right.
But you got to consider that beyond the initial sexy, let me slap them with it,
Right.
and go to the whole, and then what's next? And then what comes from that? Um, there's ramifications to anything you do.
Right.
So where's your responsibility in that? And are you owning it? Because it'll own you if you don't.
Yes. I thought I'd take a second to talk about this because it comes up, and I know a lot of people are going to think to themselves, well, don't those people who are causing problems right now ever see justice, I guess? Don't they ever get punished for what they did? And it's not about that. But that's not the word I'm trying to use. What I'm trying to say is that people create their own. There's something I'm missing here.
I
There's
can
a whole.
talk more if you like, and see if it drops in.
Uh, so this is what I'm getting. The idea is you create your own hell as well as you create your own heaven.
Oh yes.
So you're okay. I'm getting in
I
on
wish
it.
people could see you. It's
Yeah,
hilarious.
it is. I am very
He's talking with his hands.
yeah. So that whole concept of the best revenge is to live well.
Yes.
Yes. Well, that's kind of the veins I'm trying to get on. Your success, like the people who want to cause harm, can't live with other people's happiness. So the happier you are, they punish themselves because there's no reason for them to be angry with you or having all these hatred, but they have it. So unless they do their work, aha, it's because there's two things. That's why. Wow, this is going to be okay.
Go for it.
Wow. So,
Do that thing.
so part one, right, is the best revenge is to live well because the people who have meant you harm, it's going to drive them nuts and you're going to live well and you have nothing to do with it. And they're going to spend their own energy in their own suffering. But the other thing is, and this is especially for the magical people, it doesn't matter what they're doing because you're doing magic and magic is about a greater understanding. And if you get bogged down on the idea of punishing someone who did something to you, when you actually have the opportunity to grow and do something better, you're robbing yourself.
Oh yeah, big time. The thing with punishing other
Mm,
people for something they did to you is you are choosing then to expend an awful lot of
right.
energy in a very negative way. And I'm not doing the puritanical, like holier than thou stuff. No,
Mm,
no, no. It's none of that. It's literally that more energy is expended in doing something negative to someone than it is to giving them a boost or help in some way. It's less energy to be helpful. Believe it or not, test it out for yourselves if you don't immediately know what I'm saying. But if you're chasing after somebody to make them miserable, you're
right.
really putting an awful lot of effort in, and the outcome will not make you happier. It will not make you improved in any way, shape, or form. And the person, even if they get the fullest punishment that you want to throw at them, then what? What was the end result of that? Do you feel better now? Probably not, right? For the most part. I'm sure there are some exceptions to the rule, there always
Right.
are, but for the most part, it's not a good use of your energy at all. Making sure that they can no longer bother you, that's a good use of your
Right.
energy. I mean, the definition of forgiveness and what that means, we're often sold an absolute crock of shit on that
Right.
one, where, oh, forgive and forget. No, 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 no. Forgive, yes, forget, no. You don't need to forget. And forgiving someone, if they've done something against you, you can forgive them. It doesn't mean you have to give them access to you.
Right.
Once you've forgiven them, it means you can let it go. And
Yeah.
they are left with whatever the heck they did and whoever they are and whatever their problems are, right?
Right.
But
That was one of our more controversial episodes.
but
Forgiveness. Who
it's
gives
the
a shit?
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just let it go
Yeah.
so that it's no longer draining you. And then never mind what happens to them. It's not your issue. Just don't give them access to you
Right.
anymore.
And one of the things I'm going to tack on to what we had already discussed before, when you do that, you give them power. And remember, we've
Mm,
discussed this a few times now on the podcast. Some people don't know how to wield power, and other people do. And they just need you to give them a little bit of power to give them their entry.
yeah. So
So,
you don't
right,
want to feed the beast that's biting you. Just cut it
right,
off.
right. So, as you give more time and energy to wanting revenge, or even if you want to go so far as to say justice, the more you focus on it, the more that's where your energy is going instead of going to the work of elevating and making things better.
Right. And you're abdicating responsibility for yourself at that
Yes.
point because you're so focused on what you're doing to the other person or what you're looking to cause for them. And uh, something I see written quite often, and it's in error, in my opinion, and that is karma's gonna make sure that they get what's coming to them, that kind of talk. Mm, no, it isn't. At least not in this lifetime and not in a way that would
Right,
satisfy you. So again, don't worry about that. It doesn't matter. Get out of whatever the situation is that ties you to them. Do a cord cutting ceremony.
right,
That's awesome. Get your candles, get your threads, have your whole incantation and what have you. Do it the way it works for you, whatever that is. Use the herbs, incense, whatever, but do the cord cutting so that that person no longer has access to your energy. and they can no longer influence you. Do that. Don't worry about karma. They'll go on whatever their path is. You don't have to do
Yes.
anything about that.
Yeah. Because the important part to be touched on here is how it's going to affect you magically.
Yes, and if
You
you have
can't do
that
the
energy for it, what are you going to do?
exactly. It takes away your energy, and it's something you like. Think about it. Your at your your attempts at revenge are giving the person who you want to get revenge on what they want. Now, not exactly the details they want, but what you're doing is you're giving them the attention.
And, sometimes the point you're proving isn't the one you want to prove.
Right.
So, thinking specifically of these MAGA women
Mm.
who are prepared to give up their vote and are happy to see their daughters never get the vote in order to piss off a liberal
Right.
woman. Okay, what that does actually, you think you're making a point that's going to upset the liberal woman, but actually what's happening is you're showing yourself in full glory in all the ignorance and spite that you have. What a thing to spotlight.
Mm.
Wow, maybe don't. Maybe don't do that. Oof, that's kind of tough to
Yeah.
do. But instead, if you could take that energy and look for something that lights you up, what's
Yeah.
what's interesting to you that you'd like to try, that you want to focus on, that you can mm, dive into, maybe make a difference with? What would that be? Put your focus there because that's far more positive and more helpful to you than focusing on the nonsense that somebody else is spouting.
Right. And it's interesting because I'm going to offer this personal experience. So, as I've said many times, I had a trickster teacher. And it makes me, and now I'm at a point in my life where I feel bad for people who didn't have a trickster teacher. Because one of the big things is what ended my time with my trickster teacher was literally my ability to go, yeah, that's great, but I'm moving on. And then no longer focusing on it.
Okay.
And it's so I didn't have to do a cord cutting or nothing like that, but it was like all the little things. If I had stuff that I hadn't dealt with, it would pick on that stuff and it would use it. That was his entry way to do stuff. And once I went, you know what? I see what's happening. I understand it. I have to deal with these things. If I don't deal with these things, I'm always going to be vulnerable. So I'm going to deal with those things. And then I got to just a point in my life where I was at this state and it was just like, okay, I can't really do anything for you to you anymore. So we're done. And because I see it, and the reason why I understand the message being said is because there's a lot of people who are starting to have power, and you can really see they don't know how to use it. They don't realize the influence they're wielding. They don't realize the effect they're having. They don't realize, as one woman who still considers herself a man hater had said, if you give in to misandry too far, that misandry becomes misogyny.
Well, yeah, and frankly, either of those are a problem because again, my stance is
Right.
always going to be don't hate on a group.
Right.
I don't
Exactly.
care what the characteristics of the group are. Don't hate on them. So,
Right.
okay, I just brought up MAGA women and I wasn't
Right.
very, thrilled with them. I don't hate on them though. I am supremely unbothered by their
Right.
presence. I do not care about them.
Mm.
But, every now and then something so howlingly obvious comes up, and it's a
Mm.
great, great example to use and say, well, you think that you're presenting a certain image of, yeah, I'm in charge and look at these
Right.
decisions I'm making, but actually you look like a jackass.
Mm.
So, what are you spotlighting really? And typically, I don't think that the type of woman I was talking about is aware of what she's doing. She's in this proximity to power, this, okay, your group is
Mm.
currently on the rise and taking control of
Right.
everything and causing misery for an awful lot of people. And somehow that seems to be good. so she wants to do more of it. That is a world of trouble that I don't care to attach to.
Right.
I'm not interested in the ramifications and nonsense spewing out from that camp. That's not where my focus is going to go. But every
Right.
now and then there's a great example to use from there. So, but hating on a group, no, why? Just don't. We are all human beings, and we're all here doing what we came to do, hopefully. And, we have a journey. We're definitely doing that. That's it,
Right.
right? Like, you don't have to worry about the rest. And you know what? If you're trying to be other people's conscience, well, think about the way I phrase that for a second. If
Mm.
you are trying to be somebody else's conscience, that is fucking exhausting. Stop it. You
It
don't
is.
need to do it. It is
Mm.
gonna wipe you out. It's just like if you give advice to someone and then you spend time chasing them to make sure that they're taking the advice. It's exhausting.
It is.
You are not their conscience, and you
Right.
cannot make somebody use the gift of your advice. You give it to
That's
them,
right.
you let it go.
That's right. You can share and you can teach, but you are not them, and you're not there to decide how they receive it.
Exactly. You cannot control that because that belongs to the other person's sphere. They control
Right.
it. But so many people are trying right now, the environment we're in, people are trying to influence how everybody around them thinks.
Mm.
And, you're either with me or you're an idiot, and so on and so forth. And it's exhausting. All the screaming is exhausting. All the fighting is exhausting. Just, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, if you're on the left, you got problems. There are some things there that you need to clean house with. And if you're on the right, you got problems. There's a lot of
Right.
things there that you need to clean house with. And that's it. Nobody has the answer. Nobody is absolutely correct. Just, don't try and pick one or make everybody agree with you. It's exhausting.
Right.
That's, again, it's a
Right.
misuse of your energy. And your
Hmm.
energy is your most potent currency. And it's the one that you can't replace. Money comes and goes,
Mm.
your energy doesn't. When you spent it, it's
Right.
gone.
Yeah. And that's massively valuable to your magical practice.
Yes.
There's a point to be rehashed here about how you have to basically look at your magic, look at your practice, ask yourself, are you taking steps towards, well, I'll use this word, ascending, or you keep dragging yourself down?
Yeah.
The more you worry unnecessarily about other people, and that doesn't mean you become cold and you ignore people, but it means that the people who don't have an influence on you or who have no relevance to your life, some words that I'm using right now mean different things when you have magical awareness.
Okay.
Because if I say to you, people who don't matter to your life, shouldn't allow them to have influence, when you are more magically aware, one of the things you start to I would hope you would start to realize is that I don't mean people you don't know specifically. I mean people who literally your flows don't come into each other, they don't influence each other, they don't
Uh-huh.
elevate each other, or the opposite that they're different. I mean, if it's not in your path, it's not about ignoring other people and being cold. It's about knowing that it's not your place to go. There's someone else there that has that path to go to, not you.
Yeah, and you can care about another person's
Yes.
well-being
Right.
perfectly well
Hmm.
without having to attach any part of you to any part of them.
Yes.
So envisage, if you will, two pieces of material and a needle and thread. You could just sew a design on one of the pieces of material and leave the other one there without doing any harm to it.
Hmm.
And also, maybe offer some help to that piece if you need to, but you don't have to stitch the two things together. They don't have to be intertwined. It's You can care about someone, you can care for someone, and not be entangled. That's the
Right.
key, I think. In fact, it's important not to be entangled because you can't do anything from there. You
Hmm.
can't be helpful because you're now in it. If you're
Yes.
enmeshed in the story, there's nothing you can do. So, again, if you want to be helpful to other people, if that's a thing for you, and most human beings arrive
Mm.
wanting to do that,
Right.
then being enmeshed in somebody else's situation does not make you a good person. It doesn't mean you're more caring. And the word empath just floated past for me, and I want to kind of clear that one up a little
Yep.
bit, if I may.
You ever?
A lot of people tell me that they're empaths, and I hear it so much in like magical circles. A lot of
Hmm.
people say, I'm an empath, I'm an empath. Maybe. And maybe not. Maybe that's not quite the right term. If you have an open or an undefined solar plexus, thinking human design right
Hmm.
now, then you absorb and amplify other people's emotions in your environment. It doesn't become yours. It might feel that way, but it's not yours. And if you are moving away
Right.
from that person, the emotions can drop off. You don't have to carry them, and you should not make a decision from there because it's not yours. But that is not the same as being an empath. That is a different thing. And being an empath is not all the fun it's cracked up to
Right.
be, right? It would be a tough thing to be an empath and to maintain your own autonomy.
Hmm.
So, if you think you're an empath, first of all, check your human design and see what your solar plexus looks like.
Right.
That's one thing. And then the other thing is consider what the word really means and what does it mean to you? And is that something you want in your environment? Or you might want to clear the field and stop saying it because it's not the most fun path.
Right.
And it
And even
doesn't make you a better person. That's really key. Is you say you're an empath, that does not make you a better person.
right. Well, that's the I do tackle that in the first season when I did talk about empathy, but there's a lot of misunderstanding right now. People are using terms and magical concepts, and they're using it to feel special
Hmm.
rather than doing the work. It's like the idea of and I've seen over the years a couple of TV shows that have tried to handle this concept, but it's like the idea of being the chosen one. Listen, if you're being honest with yourself and you actually look at what a chosen one does, it actually really sucks, and you don't want to be the chosen one. Like,
Yes, ask a Jewish person about being the chosen one, and they will tell you what they're chosen for. And it's not something that everybody would be knocking the gate down to be.
right,
So, the chosen one doesn't mean you did the choosing, for one thing.
right.
And that implies less choice because
Well, that's exactly
somebody
it.
else did the choosing.
That's right.
So, yeah, there's a lot of words I think that are being used in a way that that word doesn't mean what you think it
Right.
means. So, like, let's go full Princess Bride here.
Yeah.
It
I
it
don't think that is.
doesn't mean what you think it means. That's not it. So, what are you inviting into your field when this is how you present yourself? Because if your
Right.
identity is, oh, I'm an empath and I take on other people's emotions when I'm in the room with them, I feel
Mm.
everything. Is that really what you want to have in your field? You want to put that out
Right.
there, that's your intention? Because that could be pretty tough. And guess who you attract?
Right.
With that
Nice.
kind of energy,
Yeah.
you are saying you are holding up this big shiny banner saying, narcissists,
Yes.
whoa, over here, come find
Hmm.
me. And they will. They're gonna
Yeah.
love that. Oh yeah, you're gonna suck that stuff up and hold it for them. Oh, you're a
Hmm.
narcissist dream. So
Right.
maybe reconsider how you're presenting yourself for your own benefit. Like it makes no odds to me what you say you are, but
Yeah.
it's gonna make a difference to you.
But part of it is, I think of it like It's like saying I'm a smeller. Well, everyone has a sense of smell unless something really wrong happened, you know. Now, that
Right.
doesn't mean that you're being, sought after for your sense of smell, but you can smell things. So you wouldn't just call yourself a smeller because you're smelling things. Just because you're feeling someone else's emotions doesn't mean you go already to the title of telepath. Because, like you said, right, depending on your human design, the centers that are defined and undefined are going to make you susceptible to things. And if you can't, even if you throw aside the whole spiritual side of it, it's very difficult for people not to read emotions on other people.
Um, Depending. If you have autism, that can be more of a difficulty because there's sort of social cues and visual cues that might not be read. But by and large, people can pick up the vibe, the
Yeah.
feeling that's in the room when somebody walks in a room. Um, but I wouldn't sit there
Mm,
with it and try and cultivate it.
right.
Again, very draining. All these things that we've been coming up with so
Yeah.
far today are draining. We got to find all those little holes. It's like having a sieve. You got to find all those holes and start plugging them so that you
Yeah.
keep your energy for the things that matter.
Right. And generally, someone who is an empath will also have certain intuitions that help them work like that. Whereas, you know, you being someone who, yes, like pretty much the majority of the population can read emotions, and you might even have a spiritual attunement to it, but it doesn't mean you're an empath. It just, like I said, it just means you have a sense of smell and you can smell things. But that doesn't mean that you're sought out for your sense of smell. You can even look at it this way. Everyone, for the most part, like I was going to use the example because I live in Canada. It's the first thing that came to mind. I play hockey, but I am not a professional hockey player. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I am no means the best hockey player on the planet. So even if you sit there and go, oh, I'm sensing that person's emotions, well, before you call yourself an empath, just realize that that's part and parcel of being a human being. Eh,
Yeah, and I guess the overarching point to the
yeah,
things we've said so far is really, be careful what you're defining yourself
yes,
by, because that becomes how you're known and what comes into your environment. You will attract the narcissists.
hmm
You will attract the people that want to feed off of that. And I don't know, but for the most part, I'm not convinced that that's your best move.
mm,
Maybe don't.
yeah, like,
So again, it
but,
makes no difference to me. It makes no difference to Daniel. What you call yourself, you do you. But the point is, you do you, not something that you think sounds good, but maybe it
right,
isn't.
right.
Maybe it's not that great.
I want to say one of the joys of growing into adulthood, especially when you get to your middle age. I'm not going to say everyone gets this, but for the most part, at least to some degree or another, you start to have a sense of reality about yourself. You start to have more of a sense of who you are, and you stop chasing certain things that you chased as a child because you realize, oh, that was never really me. Now I don't really want to chase that. I actually want to do this because this is what I actually like, or this is what I'm actually capable of. That's
Yeah, I
not
think
giving up.
some
That's becoming aware of yourself.
some people get that, an awful lot don't.
Yeah.
Like I don't know that that's a common knowledge. I wish it
Yeah.
was, but somehow. Yeah. But one of the joys of getting older
Right.
is definitely that you have the possibility to discern more clearly
Right.
what is worth giving a fuck for and what isn't.
hmm
And then, judiciously hand them out and keep most of them because, it's exhausting to give it all away,
Yeah.
right? And be clear on what you expect back, because if you're looking for something transactional, that's a whole other ball game. That's such a different thing. And people get very confused. Okay, let's go transactional for a second
Mm.
because
Right.
that just came up fairly strongly. Um, and we have come across this before. But in magical work,
Mm.
spiritual work, it doesn't mean that because it's spiritual or magical that money cannot be involved.
Right.
Disabuse the thinking of that because I've seen it in so many places where Richard Rudd, for
Mm,
example, who is the founder of Gene Keys, and he's a decent guy and he gives out a lot of his time for people.
mm,
He does a lot of free stuff as well as paid and what have you. But whenever he charges money, somebody somebody in that group is going to say, well, why are you charging? This is spiritual work.
mm,
And I'm going to say, why are you asking such a stupid question? Because he still has to eat. He's not
yeah.
ethereal, you know. He
Hmm.
exists on this plane. Money is an energy transfer. It's not a bad
Right.
thing. So, that's a clarity thing too, right? If you're
Yeah.
spiritual, it doesn't mean that you don't want money. Somebody said to me just earlier today,
Mm,
"Oh, I know in your line of work that you don't really care about the money. It's all
mm.
about the outcome." And I said, no, actually, money is great. I would love to have money. Like, I do not have a problem having money.
Mm,
Um, yes, I'm here for the outcome of my work, but
right.
part of that outcome is money.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it transactional. That means I'm being absolutely clear and honest. Yeah, my work is valuable. So part of that value cannot have a price on it, but another part sure as hell does.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's have some clarity on that. You talked last week about, having magic for sale, if you will, being
Hmm.
able to
Yes.
buy somebody's
Yeah.
skills in the magical arena.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't need to give it to you for free. It's still something, you have a musician, you pay them for their
Mm,
music. You have an
right.
artist, you pay them for their art. You have somebody who does magic and you value
Mm,
the way they do it and what they're doing
mm,
and you believe in the outcomes and so on, then you can pay them for that. That's how
yeah.
that works.
What was that? So Michaela had a guest recently on her podcast, which you should by design. What did she say? Money is the energetic representation of your appreciation or something like that.
Sounds about right, yes.
Yeah. The
And
amount
that
of
that
money.
was a
Yeah.
great conversation because
Yeah.
the Julie Fouch, the woman
Yeah.
I was talking to, is a well-respected and well-established business coach, and she's been doing this for years. She's very successful at it, and she's a witch. She
Mm,
has her magic in there as well, and she's all about manifestation, and doing the work. Right? It's not one or the other; it's
right.
both. And absolutely, there's a requirement to be paid for that. And I believe she also said, I don't think
Mm,
it was a conversation we had other than,
mm,
than the podcast. I believe she
right.
also said on the podcast, I never do discounts.
Right.
I don't reduce what I'm
Right.
asking for because if it's for you, you'll figure it out.
Right. Yes, she did say that on the episode.
Yeah. This is not something that, you try and make the other person comfortable and therefore lower your value to meet their
Right.
expectations. No, what you're putting out there is already valuable and you
Hmm.
don't change it to make somebody else comfortable. And here's the irony too. If you do, the person you're trying to make comfortable is now going to, it could be intangible, like you might not even see it at first, but they will
Hmm.
lose respect for what you're talking about
Yep.
because you dropped the value of it in front of them. And so, oh,
Hmm.
maybe it was overinflated in the first place, or oh, maybe, and all the maybes start coming in,
Yep.
and your energy's now off because you just tipped the balance in the wrong way. Their energy's off because, you know, they're no longer looking at you the same way. Now that transaction can't really work. Even if they jump at it and say, yeah,
Right.
give me the discounted price, they are not going to show up the way they would have for the original, whatever it is. You could be talking
Yeah.
$10, you could be talking $10,000. Whatever the original price
Mm,
is, it needs to be that.
yeah. That's a very valid point because it's true. The more, even when you're like self-deprecating and make jokes, eventually at some point those jokes add up. I don't know why
Yeah.
that came to mind, but it did. But
Well,
anyway,
yeah, because it's your presentation of who you
yeah,
are, which matches to what we were saying earlier on about, oh, hey, I'm an empath,
right.
yo, narcissists over here. Well, again, if you're that coach will give you a discount,
Mm,
that magical person is going to
yeah.
ask them and they'll give you 3 spells for the price of 2 or whatever it
Mm,
is, right? You become known for that.
yeah.
You become known as a discount, if you will, and you do not want to be discounted. Think of the
No.
word, not counted, discounted.
Yeah.
No, that's no one listening to this podcast wants to show up that way.
Right.
And that's an important thing to consider because just gonna beat this puppy for a minute.
Yeah.
Um, it's an important thing to consider because it tends to be a go-to thing. And some societies actually have it as a norm, if you will.
Mm,
I lived in Malaysia,
right.
and in Malaysia, it is a given that when you have a price for something, the person about to buy is going to say, discount or what lah? Like, can I have
Hmm.
a discount now? And they could be rich as anything. On principle, they're going to ask for a discount
Right.
and they're going to expect a discount. And if you don't give one, they feel disrespected in some way. So then it becomes, well, I have to charge more so that I can discount to what the real price is.
Yes.
And you get this whole nonsense going on that's just, this is a performative dance at this point,
Hmm.
right? And for the unwary that walks into that and doesn't know that that's a thing, it it just ends up being really wackadoodle, right? Like you have to do the discount thing.
Yeah.
But no, the energy's not good for that. And the lack of respect in the person asking, they don't actually care what your value is and they don't care what the first price was you just said. What they care about is, are they going to get a discount?
Right. Which is
And
an
that's not a
interesting way of
good
looking.
place. It's not a good place to put your priority.
No, but I am familiar with people who do that. Even people I know who do that. It's the if it doesn't get discounted, then I didn't get a deal or it didn't I got ripped
Right.
off or whatever. And I'm like, Jesus Murphy,
Exactly. If I don't get, in fact, my grandfather
Mm.
just leapt to mind.
Right,
Oh my goodness. He had this thing where he always had to have what he referred to as his little bit of profit.
right.
And so if he was buying meat at a deli, they'd have to give him a slice to taste
Oh, okay.
first because that's his little bit of profit.
Hmm.
Or if he's, any food he's buying, he wants to try a little bit first. It's not because he doesn't trust the value of it. It was because that to him meant he got a little bit extra.
Right.
And it was a thing with him wherever he went. Fascinating, but lifelong. I never knew him not do it. Um, just absolutely
Yeah.
fascinating. Now, that could have been because of the Second World War and poverty or what, I don't know. But that was something he always did.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that mindset puts you in a place of always needing more or having that little bit of difference in order to make yourself feel special.
Right.
I
Well,
got
I
a
didn't
discount that makes me
yeah.
special. I got my little bit of extra that makes me special.
Well, even there's I was gonna say, for those people who are like looking at who come from it from the philosophy of people are always overcharging you, so you got to make sure you get a good deal. It's like that's kind of a dark way to look at life. Like I don't
It is,
hurt.
isn't it?
Yeah, you're assuming everyone's out to screw you. Like
And the
those people
place that you're
exist in
coming
life,
from,
but yeah,
but the place you're coming from then is always a place of lack,
yeah,
right? It's always a place of, well, if this outcome doesn't happen, then I didn't get a good deal, or then
right,
I got screwed. However it is, it's a thing, you're putting that power in the other person's hands while
yeah,
you come from a place of lack.
hmm,
And the entire thing is imaginary from start to finish. Absolutely none of that is based in anything tangible, visible, or anything else.
Right.
It isn't. It's absolutely all made up. And yet, somebody can live their entire life that way.
Hmm.
And look at all the opportunities that you would miss if that criteria wasn't met. Oh, no discount. Oh, cannot. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna buy from you then. Okay, so if you want less, go buy less.
Right. Yeah.
But and then they do, and they get a discount, and then they're dissatisfied because they couldn't get the full value out of it.
Mm.
One of my favorite examples, because it really lands,
Right.
is if I say to you, okay, I'm going to give you an hour of my time, and we're going to make some differences in your life.
Hmm.
You're going to have a new pathway to move forward with and a lot of clarity about that. Okay? It's going to cost you $100. Okay. Now, same deal, exact same
Mm.
thing. I'm going to give you an hour of my time. We're going to forge a new path forward for you and lay out the criteria, the clarity, all the things. It's going to cost you $1,000. Okay. How are you showing up when you pay $1,000? And how are you showing up when you pay $100?
Yeah.
And you can bet your ass if you paid $1,000 for that hour, you are going to show up with there's going to be a recording going on somewhere. You're going to be writing notes like crazy. You're going to be hanging on every word. You're going to have questions to ask. You're going to be fully engaged. The freaking house could be on fire and you were going to be fully engaged, right?
Yeah.
Because you put $1,000 into that energy space, and by crikey, you want that back.
Mm.
You want the value. Now, if you pay $100, you're still going to show up. Maybe you have the recording going and you might take some notes and you'll probably doodle at the same time,
Right.
right? Because your attention is maybe 80%, 75% there, but it's not $1,000 there,
Right.
right? So the difference is also in what can be received. The person who is doing the energy exchange with you has to put in a sufficient amount to be able to show up and get what they came for.
Yes.
Otherwise, it just goes whoosh and they miss a whole lot. And hey, I'll give you that session for free. Are you even going to show up at this point? Because there's a good chance
Yeah.
you'll find something better to do on the day. Because I just said $20 or free. Now it's like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, well, I really wanted to go get my teeth cleaned, or oh, I need to buy dog food. You're going to find other things to do because that isn't even registering now as being significant.
Right.
The coach, the person with their hours time for you, can be bringing exactly the same messages, but now you can't even get it at all because they gave it away. It
Yeah.
means nothing. So
Yes.
that's the difference with the energy exchange that I want people to consider for yourself as well. Because if the person listening is self-employed,
Hmm.
check your freaking pricing. Like if you resent the work that you're doing, you resent the people that you're doing it with, in any way, shape, or form, you are wrongly priced.
Yeah.
You are not getting the correct energy exchange.
All right, people. So there's a threshold really close. One of the things, like to me, I feel like we're starting to repeat a lot of things, even though we're adding some new stuff. But it's because it's important because there's this threshold coming that once you cross it, or to cross it, I should say, you need to be able to step out of what you're seeing in the world. And you need to be able to make that connection, not just like emotionally and on a spiritual level, but like intellectually on what's really out there beyond your sensory bubble.
The other thing is
Yeah.
really how many people learn from hearing something once?
Right. But that's
Or
what I'm getting at, right? There's a very, very important reason why it's happening. There's a
sure,
threshold and it needs that that kind of the key to turn. It needs that aha moment. And we're starting to be asked to repeat the same concepts over and over and over and over again.
Slightly differently, I would like to think.
Yes, slightly
But
differently, but over and over again.
the thing is, too, not everybody hears every episode.
That's right.
So, again, they may have heard this for the first time right now. And cool. Hopefully it landed.
Right.
But sometimes you hear something, 10 times, and then on the 11th time, it's like, oh, got it. Because
Yeah.
the timing was right, the context was right, and it was able to land. Other times, it just shoots past and,
Yes.
oh, they didn't get it this time. So I
Right.
just go with what comes up, and hopefully it's reaching the right people at the right time.
Yeah. It's just because like I'm really, really, really feeling the threshold right now.
Hmm.
Like it's close and it needs people to step over. And it's that giving their power away to other people. It's people wallowing in their hatred or not being able to open themselves up to a new concept. All those things are keeping people back from getting through that threshold. And we're looking for a critical mass basically of people.
Wallowing is a great word,
Right.
and I think it's important at this point for if the person listening is good at, as in they've practiced being objective as far as
Mm.
possible about feedback, then take the word wallowing and have a look at your life,
Right.
see as clearly as you can, with as objectively as possible, where are you wallowing in something? Like
Yes.
victimhood is a commonplace, but lack, I don't have enough. I can't do it
Mm.
because of this. I can't do it because of that. I mean, if you watch somebody's face when they say to you, well, why haven't you done so and so? And your response is, well, I haven't had time,
Right.
right? Watch that person's face and you will get the feedback that that is a place where you're wallowing in a story that's not true. You have time for whatever you prioritize.
Yeah.
That's the honest truth, is you have
It is.
time for whatever you prioritize. So when you next find yourself saying, oh, I don't have time, put a pin in that for a second and just
Mm.
examine, does it mean it's not important to you? Or are you wallowing in a story that stops you from doing it? For example, I don't have an altar and I would like to
Right.
have one. Okay, why don't you have one? Oh, well, I can't afford it. Well, I've told the story about the Hindu guy in South
Hmm.
India
Yeah.
several times now, but anybody that may not have heard it, according to him, and I go with this, you
Hmm.
can have a milk carton and a straw, and if you pay appropriate attention to it and you give it the offerings and what have you, there's your family god.
Yeah.
Where is the I can't afford it? Yes, you can. You could pick a plant and stuff it in a
Right.
pot and put decorations around it, and that, by crikey, is your god if you want it to be. Like, what? What do you choose? So wherever you're stuck in that story of I don't have time, I can't afford it, or there's a negative that's on a loop, right? I'm
Right.
not allowed to, I don't have whatever it is you don't have that stops you from doing that thing, that have a look at it and really see what's the truth behind it.
Right.
Because it's a convenient response that honestly nobody's fooled by.
Well, I'm going to throw out this idea. It's not important to you, but you think it has to be important to you, and that's why you're not doing it. You
Right,
want it to be important to you, but it's not. That's one of the hard lessons I've had to learn in life. People say, "Well, why don't you want this?" What? I go, I suppose if I am to believe people, wanting this makes me a good person, but I don't want it.
right.
And
And
then,
that absolutely, other people put their judgments on you
mhm,
for what you need to want and for what needs to be important to you. But if it isn't, then there's always, I don't have time, I don't have
Right.
money, I don't have insert thing here that is your go-to, your excuse for not doing it.
Right.
Um, and my point to all of this, I guess, is not so much you can't have your excuses. Sure, knock yourself out.
Hmm.
Everybody's playing with them. But have a look at why. What is it really that's there in your way? Is it
Right.
stopping you from moving forward in some way? For example, I am putting together a workshop that I'm going to do live, and
Right.
it's happening in the fall. And the workshop is called Permission.
Ah,
And the whole thing with permission is I am going to have a group of people, probably women, who want to create an altar. And we're going
yes.
to start by talking about the dark mothers and, the various deities and how you could connect to them. And, looking for other ways that people might want to suggest they could connect to them. Then how are you going to do that? What objects would you like to have on your altar to represent the deity, for example, to represent a connection? And every time that person comes up with a rule from somebody else's rule
Mm,
book,
right.
or and I can't because that's where the work comes in, because that's a place where you are not allowing yourself permission to do something based on somebody else's rules that you perceive as important to you. And the point to breaking down those barriers is that underneath them all is self-trust.
Mm,
That's the point. That's what we're heading for. Is self-trust is the ultimate permission,
yes.
right? And what they'll leave with is like a vision board version of an altar that they could create if they so chose. And they could change it if they wanted to, because it's
Hmm.
theirs. And they can trust themselves to know what they need. But it's the exercise is a means to an end, right? It's getting to that self-trust. And I think I'm excited to do this. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
But those rules, they only come up because somebody's asking the questions to prod you in them, right?
Hmm.
Well, why can't you put an altar together? Somebody's going to object. Why would they object? It's decorative,
Mm,
like, oh, they don't like the meaning. Do they know the meaning? Do you know the meaning?
mm,
There's a lot of questions to go through as this comes up so that you can examine what's the real problem? What's the real
yes.
limitation? And if you don't want to be limited in that way, then you can now choose.
So I
Once you
guess
can see it, you can
yeah,
choose.
right. At least from my perspective, anyways, the big question to ask is, do you actually want it? Maybe your procrastination is, or what's going on, and you're not doing it is because you don't want it.
Well,
There
I'd
are
like to
other
know,
possible explanations, but usually the big one is I just don't really want it.
but if they've come to a
Yeah.
workshop to learn how to do it, then
Right.
they may have already gone through that question. If we're in
Yeah.
the pre-stage of where I'm talking about it and somebody
Hmm.
says, well, yeah, I'd like to do that, but I
Mm,
don't have the time. It's like,
right.
really?
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to do it, but is time really the problem? And typically it isn't, because really we will find time to do the stuff we want to do. I mean, I have a stupidly busy calendar that
Mm,
is absolutely, if I show it to someone, they typically say, what is wrong with you? Why are you doing all of that? And it's a valid question.
mm,
And I don't have an answer for that yet. But yet, doesn't matter how busy I am, at some point I say, okay, I got to record with Danielle this week,
mm,
and we're going to make
yes.
that happen. And I can have all kinds of things going on, and
Mm,
this recording will happen because I prioritize it, right? It's
right.
something I really want to do. I enjoy doing it,
Hmm.
and this is a fun thing for me. So you can bet
Right.
it's high on my list of things to do. So if it's not fun, it drops immediately, right?
Yes.
If you're not liking a thing, then just I'll do it tomorrow, next week. I can skip a week or two. Well, I'm going on
Yeah.
holiday for a month, even if you're not. or whatever it is, right? But that's when the excuses start to come up. And if you can be honest with yourself about what you do want to do and what you don't honestly want to do, then you've got a lot more room for what you are here to do, right? If you get stuck in all the stuff that you think you ought to do, eh,
Mm.
nothing left. Then you end up with a calendar like mine. I do not claim to be perfect.
Yeah. So yeah. So we got into the weeds or whatever it was the title was.
Yeah, that's fair comment. We did.
Yeah. Because I got nothing left. That's why. That's why I mentioned it.
Well, maybe our next episode will be the weed whacker.
Maybe. But yeah. So now was a call to like really look at what do you want? Because I think this final thread that Michaela had is very important. If you want to cross that threshold, it's like, well, what do you really want? Like, do you really want to do this? Did you jump up? I guess that's will be my final word is the well, it goes back to the whole idea. If you're not doing magic in 2026, you're not doing magic in 2026. Take your time, figure it out what you actually want to do. Better to be aligned with what you're doing than to not be aligned and trying to align yourself with something you're not aligned with. Yeah,
Yeah.
something like those words.
Actually, one more thing did
Sure.
just come to mind,
All
and
right.
that is I was talking with someone earlier on who has 2 degrees and she's doing her third. And she said she took time off for some surgery and she's going
Mm,
back in January. And she said, I'm really excited about it. And then kind of looked at me as if to say, uh-oh, maybe I shouldn't have
mm,
said that. And I realized something in that instant
mhm.
because I too have got more than 1 degree. And
Right,
why? Because I really enjoy doing them. It's
right,
fun to do that study, to
right,
hand in the paper, to get the grades. Like, judge that any way you want. I don't care. It's fun to do that for me. And she feels the same way.
right,
And the two of us, when we were talking about it, realized, wait a minute, people keep making us feel wrong for this, right? Like what are you doing? You're wasting your time, you're wasting your money, like whatever it is, insert judgment here. But the point is, it's not, neither of us are doing it for the, hey, look how smart I am.
right,
Whatevs. You either think it or you don't, or whatever. It really doesn't matter at this point. But this was something that both of us get excited about. Both of
right.
us think are really fun. And both of us were like, whoops, maybe shouldn't say that out loud. Where is that in your life?
Yeah,
For the listener, where do you have that? Where there's something you actually love to do, and whenever you mention it, people look at you and say, well, you're an overachiever. What's wrong with you? You must be nuts. That kind of thing.
right.
Where do you get that? What are you doing that people judge you for and then you shrink it?
Yes, that's very important.
It
Kyla
is.
hit on something very good there.
Thank you.
Well, it's I was gonna, I cannot stress how important actually the point you hit on is.
Cool. Because I thought so too. It just came
Yeah.
across as really loud and clear, and the two of us are looking at each other like,
Mm,
you too, huh? And it's
right.
it's only at that point where you realize, oh, I keep making that, I dim that shine typically
Yeah.
because I'm expecting other people not to approve of it. And so I think I've worked through an awful lot of stuff and I still get tripped up on those kind of things.
Well, it's hard not to get tripped up on stuff, but that's so right.
Exactly.
So when I'm talking about the threshold and crossing it, you actually gave the positive way to cross the threshold.
Yay me.
Well, yes, because like I'm sort of like I'm kind of with all the I did a bunch of shadow work recently, and I'm kind of like a little bit on the why am I even doing things anymore kind of a path at the moment in my head.
Uh-huh.
So this was actually a very good way of putting it across. Like, yes, do the thing that lights you up. Do the thing that feeds your soul, because that's how you're going to cross the threshold. Like
And you'll
that's
find it.
yeah,
I think you'll find the thing If you don't already know it really clearly, then look for the thing that's hiding under the rock because other people
Right.
handed you the rock and said, here, put it under this.
Well, that's exactly it. It's that way. It's that method. It's that understanding that's going to let you do what I said in the negative sense, or at least in the opposite sense.
There you go.
Because you're going to look at what stories people are putting on you, and you're going to look at what you accepted, and then you're going to look at it, what actually is the truth. And that's what you're trying to get to. Because the less you let people get in the way of your story, the easier it is to cross that threshold. And that's
Right?
what I was trying to get at, but I did it in more of a kind of a negative sense. So no, that's
Okay.
exactly perfect. That's
So
exactly what this episode was looking for.
it will land for whoever needs to hear it. But that was a bit of an eye opener for me because I
Mm.
thought, yeah, I always make excuses for why I have these degrees, and it's like, but I busted my ass to get them
Right,
and thoroughly enjoyed the process. That's the
right.
thing. And I said to her, even when you're reaching a deadline and you got this essay to hand in or whatever, and you're
Mm,
bitching about it, it's still really fun, isn't it?
right.
And most people would look at me like, you have lost the plot, lady.
Mm,
But she did not, and I didn't think she would. She looked at me and said, yeah, it's part of the process. It's really cool.
right.
And she's really psyched to get back into that whole thing. And I left the conversation thinking, last week I was looking up degrees in herbal medicine. I'm going to have to look again.
Mm,
Because I would love to do that. Make me
right,
so happy. But where do you not do it because somebody, the people around you, your environment tells you that it's too much or
right,
it's, you know, you they're not comfortable because they haven't done it. But it
right.
doesn't have to be.
Yeah. No, this is a great, great note to end the podcast on. This is the great final thought for the podcast. Do that. Do what Michaela just said. That's over. Yes, that's the one. All right.
Move that rock, turn it into a rock garden.
Yeah. So once again, I'm Daniel Dubois.
And I'm Michaela Gaffinstone.
Until next time.
À la prochaine.